How long is the show, by the way?
Good morning, Daniel.
Morning, Joe.
We're live as we speak. So it's about an hour, sometimes between 40 minutes and an hour. So good morning, everybody. Welcome to Center for Spiritual Living, Palm Desert and beyond. We have the famous Daniel Namod, who is going to be with us today to share some of his stories and songs with us. So welcome, Daniel. Welcome.
Hi, Joe.
And we start every session out by just doing a real quick prayer, unless you want to play one. Do you have a prayer that you could play for us?
Sure. Or you can, how about I do a little bit of it? I'll do a little bit of the singing and you can chime in when you're ready.
All right.
I will leave this world as it is, go inside to find my God. I will leave this world as it is, go inside to find my God. I will leave this day as it is, go inside to find my God. I will leave this day as it is, go inside to find my God. Inside there is peace, inside there is joy, inside there is more than enough. Inside there is peace, inside there is joy, inside there is sacred love. Inside there is sacred love.
So in this beautiful moment, we just allow ourselves to experience this amazing day. And we fill it with love, and we fill it with joy, and we fill it with harmony, and we fill it with balance and order. And we set that intention right here and right now as we move through this beautiful hour together with Daniel. We're so very blessed to have him here with us today. And I know something wonderful is about to happen. And I know that to be true because you're joining us, and Daniel and I have that consciousness that is going to enlighten and brighten your day today. For this, we're so very grateful. We let it be so, and so it is. Thank you, Daniel. So Daniel, tell me, what has it been like to be sheltered in with your family for many weeks? How did that go?
Well, you know how somebody telling a truth can be, especially a delicate truth, or a truth that most people don't say out loud. You know, somebody saying a truth out loud can be liberating to the rest of us.
Yeah.
So I had a little moment like that with comedian Bill Burr, who is not a PG rated comedian, and he's pretty funny and pretty vulgar and intense. And I think he's funny. I like stand-up comedians. And he was on the Jimmy Kimmel show, which at this point, if you've seen the Jimmy Kimmel show, it's, you know, him in his basement talking about his little girl and whatever else. And he had Bill Burr as a guest, but remotely. And he said, so Bill, how are you doing with the shutdown, you know, off the road, and, you know, how's it going for you? He said, I love it. He said, I hate LAX, and I've been trying to get out of LAX for like 15 years, and all of a sudden I'm not allowed even to go into LAX. He said, I don't mind if this goes on for years. I've been so sick. He said, I've been traveling on the road for so long. And I actually personally am not a fan of LAX either. And I laughed and I thought, yeah, there is some truth for those of us who travel a lot. it is not a burden. It's not a burden to be stuck home.
Yeah.
It isn't. And in fact, when I started doing shows online, they gave me so much uh, satisfaction, and I realized within a couple of nights of them that the reason I was enjoying them so much is because they were the thing I enjoy the most to do without the things I enjoy least to do about my job, so to speak.
Sure. I
Yeah,
totally get that. I
yeah.
totally get that. And Trey and I have been enjoying your concerts.
Thanks.
We logged in. In fact, you were one of our staples. We would turn in as when we were, Trey and I were in isolation for 2 weeks because we actually had the virus.
You're
So,
kidding.
yeah. So when we were isolated, part of our ritual would be we had we had some flowers, we had a candle, we had our laptop, we would have dinner, and we would just listen to the various concerts. And yours was one of those that we always tuned into. So
No,
we
that's really
appreciated
nice.
listening to your music. So
Did you get sick, Joe?
what?
Did you get sick, the two of you?
A little bit, yeah, yeah. We had some, yeah, we had some of that stuff. You know,
Okay.
no, we didn't. We weren't severe by any means, but no, it was kind of unnerving. It lasted about 10 or 12 days, but no one knew. I mean, I tried to keep it away from everybody and kept my online presence and my Sunday talks, but then I would go upstairs and fall asleep for 14 hours. So, but no, we're fine now. So Trey finally went back to work. He was out of work. His last trip was March 27th, and he just flew this week. And he's
Wow.
flying for like 9 days this month, but then they're offering leave of absences, so he'll be off for a while. So he's tired of the LAX thing too. So I think it's been really nice for people that have traveled to be able to stay at home and really feel like there was no pressure to do things at home. It was kind of nice.
Yeah, I've always said, like, 20. I've been self-employed for since like '98, and I always said I either have money or time.
Yeah,
'Cause if I'm on the road performing all the time, then I'm flush with cash.
exactly.
And if I'm at home relaxing, I'm broke. And in this case, it was so involuntary. Now, that being said, I'm in a different situation than, at least I hope I'm in a different situation than Trey, or my brother, who's a teacher in Los Angeles School District. Um, People who still have salaries, and for for a fair number of people, a shutdown slash lockdown, whatever you want to call it, wasn't hardship so much. It was as an enforced rest, right? But with I'm not being glib about it, with pay and benefits.
Right, for some, yeah.
Some of us, and I'm not in the hardship category like many, but for some, it was a short circuit of livelihood. It was a power down of your bank account.
Yeah.
So it was a little scary for Danny, and his wife. Jude was fine. He didn't care, but
So let's play a song here. Tell me something that you've written recently that I'm sure you've done something recently, because how could you not be motivated by what's happened the past 10 weeks? Have you come up with anything?
I don't have no, I haven't written any new songs in the last 10 weeks. But
Right.
if I was to sing something, it depends. It depends. It depends what mood. It depends what mood I'm in, but also it kind of, I mean, like it's amazing how the channel has changed for America in a way the last week. It's like it's suddenly the crisis is not the virus, and in fact in our house we never even felt like the crisis was the virus. I mean, we're sheltered, but we also didn't get the virus, not just us ourselves, but our town. I mean, it just didn't come to Orange County particularly at all. Knock on whatever, it just didn't happen here. This current moment, though, the headlines now, the protests and so on, that although we're remote from that too in terms of any life experience we have, that hits closer to home, ironically, than any thing of the virus ever did. So I'll sing you a song. This is a song that came to mind a couple days ago during a group that I'm teaching, and it feels pertinent. So let's see. I think you've heard it, Joe. Probably you've heard it. Maybe it might be. It's relatively new, so maybe the last time I was there in Palm Desert. Lately I've been thinking about what motivates me to give a couple dollars to a stranger on the street, to hold the door, carry groceries, help a neighbor in need. When history repeats itself in headlines every day, solutions never big enough for problems that we face. As a man, as a dad, what difference can I make? 'Cause I know better than to think I'll be remembered for a favor or a quarter or a smile. Oh, but maybe before I return to sender, I can do one thing worthwhile. So I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try to raise a kind child. Sure would help if our boy went and got an MBA and took care of his artist mom and dad in their old age. But let's face it, Wall Street probably isn't in his DNA. But when his first grade teacher said she wanted us to know, it's Jude who always comforts any kid who sits alone, there's just so much pride my heart can take. My retirement can wait. 'Cause I know better than to think I'll be remembered for a fortune or a pension or a prize. Oh, but maybe before I return to sender, I'll have done one thing worthwhile. So I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try to raise a kind child. I don't want him to think the world is his to save. It's too much pressure anyway, it can't be done. I don't want him to think he has to be a saint, 'cause the truth is saints don't have any fun. Mostly I just hope, my boy, you'll come to understand. No 401k or GPA can make a happy man. It's having roots, doing good, helping out where you can. So put down roots, do some good, take somebody's hand. And you'll know better than most what really matters, what makes living this life worthwhile. And there may come a day your own kids will remember how their granddad used to say with a smile that he raised. We raised a kind child.
Daniel, what a great song.
Yeah, thanks.
That is such a beautiful song. Wow.
You know what, the reason it came to mind, I mean, maybe it's obvious, maybe not, is that you know, when I remember oh, funny, Tom Costa is who I remember saying that he would flip through the newspaper and see lots of opportunities to pray. I don't know if you remember. That is
He
like,
did. That was one of his lines. Yeah.
yeah. And but so I like that line, but what I don't like to feel is flipping through the newspaper or watching the news is a to-do list.
Yeah.
That is overwhelming. And I was talking with and I have these groups that whatever I'm teaching, I don't know, teaching, leading, facilitating, and talking about the difference between doing what you can do and feeling like you need to do everything or save the world, which is, of course, really not just an exercise in futility, but really more an exercise in exhaustion, rather than staying focused on the good you can do right in front of you. And so that's why the song comes to mind, is because, yeah, the headlines are screaming. Yeah, people are scared. Yeah, tragedy is happening. Yes, got it. It's not up to the UN, and it's not up to Congress, and it's not, you know what I mean? There's
Right.
no organization, there's no leader, there's nothing that's going to fix all of it. I, on the other hand, can make my neighbor's day better. You know, I can, you know what I mean? I can do something small. And in the doing something small, I'm doing my best, you know.
So I got this meme today, or something, whatever you call it. I don't even know what you call them anymore. Uh, I thought it was really interesting. I want to share it. What if 2020 isn't canceled? What if 2020 is the year we've been waiting for? A year so uncomfortable, so painful, so scary, so raw that it finally forces us to grow. A year that screams so loud, finally awakening us from our ignorant slumber. A year we finally accept the need for change, declare change, work for change, become the change. A year we finally band together instead of pushing each other further apart. 2020 isn't canceled, but rather the most important year of them all.
Yeah, it seems
I
entirely
thought,
possible.
I love that. I love that because someone just said to me, what do you say to people that 5 years ago said, so in 1995, so where do you see yourself in 5 years? It was like, locked down for 10 weeks.
With the pandemic.
In a pandemic, in the
Yeah.
middle of these protests and riots, and you're like, okay. And now someone just said there's killer hornet bees or something on their way in a hurricane. I'm like, okay, you know what? Maybe Revelations is right. Maybe we should just take it up, wrap it up, and go. So I want to talk a little bit about how you journeyed into New Thought, how you came into the New Thought movement and became an artist associated with New Thought and our New Thought churches. When did that transition take place, and how did that take place?
Well, it was a, it came from well, I'm going to be very specific. It came from a phone call to a cubicle where I was playing solitaire and pretending to earn my salary as a computer programmer in like 1992 or three. A religious science minister, and I'd never heard of religious science, named Bill Arrett called. And do you know Bill?
Yep.
The lovely Bill and Elizabeth, lovely people. And Bill, he said, we're looking for a pianist for our group. We just started meeting at, it was a historic hotel at the time. I think it's condos now, but the Orrington Hotel in downtown Evanston, Illinois, where Northwestern University is. And he said, well, we have $50 to give you, and will you come and accompany a couple of songs and sing something for us? And I said, sure. And that was actually, I was in that cubicle, and I was, I was young. Oh, it wasn't 1992. It was more like 95, 96. And actually, it's not so far off to say that phone call lit a very, very long fuse, that actually, because I was not making living making music. I was barely making any music. In fact, to this day, I don't know how Bill got my phone number, other than the possibility that at some point while I was programming computers, I put on a tuxedo and I paid somebody $150 to take a professional picture of me. And I looked ridiculous. Looking back, I still have that picture, and it's absurd. And I thought I was going to play, like, at least I was going to play piano at parties. I was going to, that kind of thing, just make some music, right? And I sent the CD, and this was in a day where you'd pay a studio and you'd give them $50 for each CD they burned for you, because they had a CD burner, and that was a big deal.
Yeah.
So I think I bought 5 discs, and I printed 5 copies of that photo, and I sent them to 5 booking people in the city of Chicago. And as far as I know, that phone call, I assume that phone call came from somebody who received that CD. But if it did, that's the only phone call I got from those 5 photos and that $250 in discs, and I think probably $500 in recording time at a studio in Chicago. So I started playing for them, and I grew up. I think I don't know if we probably have talked about it. I grew up going to synagogue. My family's still very, very traditional Jewish family. My older brother's a rabbi in New York, and my younger brother isn't super religious, but his wife is, and his wife's family is. And so Judaism is the story of my family's life, but it's never quite been my story of choice for me. Not nearly with the intensity or commitment. Nothing. I mean, since way back as a kid, never had the commitment or the immersion that the rest of my family did, or in fact that I was raised to have. So I never joined a religious science or a unity church. I've never belonged to any. I've never the Groucho Marx joke. I never wanted to belong to a club that would have me as a member. In fact, one of the wonderful things about that little tiny group of mostly elderly people in that Orrington hotel room, and we're talking about 15 people, 10, 15 people a week, is that I noticed right away that they never asked me to join. And they never asked me to sign anything. They never insisted I say anything. They never insisted I believe anything. They just didn't. All they did was once a week tell me I was wonderful, give me $50, give me a hug, and send me on my way. And that's a pretty addictive feeling. It's pretty lovely, pretty wonderful. It felt very unconditional. I mean, in the real world, it wasn't unconditional. If I'd shown up drunk, or you know what I mean? I mean, there's ways I could have short circuited it. And of course I didn't, because that's not how I'm built. But given that I fulfilled my obligation, they received me with real kindness and encouragement. And I did that for a year and a half, maybe 2 years, while that fuse was, getting closer and closer to the bomb, which was me quitting the computer programming job and leaving the fiance that I was engaged to at the time. And that ended up with me in '98 driving to LA to make music. And the end of that story is that when I arrived in LA, Bill and Elizabeth Arrett made 2 phone calls for me. They called Maureen Hoyt, and if I'm remembering correctly, they called Maureen Hoyt and David Alt and said, "This guy's lovely and talented. Will you please meet with this guy Daniel?" And I did, and those 2 people introduced me to more people, more people, more people. So fast forward 20 years, and
Plus, you got on the circuit. Once you got David Ald in the pocket at that time, who, by the way, is one of our regular guests. He comes on every couple of weeks and he shares his story. But once you got David Ald in the pocket, and he was, back then, I think he had a lot to do with the music department at Asilomar.
I believe you're right.
Or
Yeah.
it was his association with Karen Drucker that brought you guys to Asilomar. And I swear to God, Daniel, I'll never, ever forget. And I'm sure you hear this 1,000 times. I'll never, ever forget the first time I heard you sing One Power. It was an evening at Asilomar. It was a dark stage. It was you perfectly lit. And that song was just stunning. One of the most powerful songs I had ever heard. And I just remember the whole place. There were, like, at that time, usually about 1,200 people were just jammed into Merrill Hall, and the tears, and just this, it was finally like you were able to articulate in a song all the things that we had been saying in religious science and science of mind. And you said it in such a beautiful way that it just bridged over all religions. It was just, it was amazing. That song to me still is one of the most powerful songs that I've ever heard in my entire life. And that moment when it's like, who is this? Who's that guy? We got to get him to the center. We got to get him to the church. And I remember that moment. It was so, And for everyone that was there, I don't think there was a person in that room that did not feel so moved by that experience. So
Thank
I
you.
want to thank you for bringing that, because truly that was one of those, there are very few moments that you have that aha moment and it's unanimous. It was like 100, it was 1,200 people having the same light bulb go off at the same time. And it just, anyway, it was absolutely positively amazing. So share with me another song. Give me something else that what was your, do you remember one of the first songs that you wrote for a religious science church?
Yeah, I do. Sure. I arrived in, well, what I started doing, I tell when I've told the story, it sounds like it's a series of punchlines, like, so I sang The Rose and Imagine and What a Wonderful World and From a Distance. And, I kind of ran out of songs. Like, you made me think of something, actually. First of all, that's really nice what you just said. And it makes me think of several things. But the first thing it makes me think of, it sounds random, is when I went to hear Johnny Mathis with my wife. She loves Johnny Mathis. I hadn't really thought about him or noticed him my whole life, but I sang a Johnny Mathis song for her at our wedding. And Johnny Mathis still performs every so often. He's in his 80s. And we went to his show, and it was packed, thousands of people. We were probably the youngest people in the audience in Orange County here by like 25 years. Everybody crying, everybody humming along. People clapped at each melody. They played an overture. The orchestra actually played an old-fashioned overture of all the songs we were gonna hear, and people cheered every time. Chances are, and it was so moving and beautiful. And I was filled with the admiration for a man who had, for like 50 or 60 years, represented with his voice nothing but sweetness and kindness and romance and nostalgia and loveliness. And he had been woven into his voice, his music had been woven into the lives of these thousands and many, many more, millions, right? And what a legacy. And I was thinking, God, man, if I'm 80 and I can look back and have woven sweetness into the lives of people, I mean, what a thing to know you've done. That he could not help but notice in that auditorium filled with people, thousands of people, right? So I mean, for me, what's beautiful about your memory of that is that makes me think of my wish or desire or intention listening to Johnny Mathis that day. And maybe I'm not going to presume, maybe there are hundreds or thousands of people for whom a moment like that really did become part of their lives.
Well, I want to share something. I hate to interrupt you, but I want to share this. This actually came in. Daniel, finally, I can thank you for your music. You see, back in 2014, I became a widow, and I went to one of your concerts in your studio. Your music helped me through a maze of grief. So thank you.
Yeah.
That's in our chat that just popped up. So you know what? I don't think people ever realize. They don't ever realize what an impact you have when you're a minister or an artist like this, and I always say this. It's like looking out. I'm from Michigan, from Midwest, so we grew up on a lake where you'd wake up and it would just be smooth as glass, right? And I remember as a kid, I used to run down to the lake and take a giant rock and just throw it into the lake, and watch the explosion right here close, and then it just ripple, and it would literally ripple all the way across to the other side. And that's what you do when you sing your songs. That's what ministers do, and practitioners and people that are in service to the community. That's what you do. And so you'll never know, and I'll never know, we'll never know how many people heard something that you sang that they kept in their hearts, that we'll never know. But we do know this, but I do know this, that you have made that kind of impact. Now, there may not be, the Anaheim Pond Stadium filled at that moment, but you know what? Over time, it just keeps exponentially growing, and you're still doing it. You're still out there touching these people's lives. Someone asked me in the question in the chat, they said, what's the song? And I'll have Daniel play one power at the end. But go back to the song that you wanted was your like one song that you remember playing at the onset.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
We get
This,
sidetracked talking.
this is yeah, this was my I wrote this song at the end of my time in Chicago. Before I drove to LA, I gave a little concert for that small group in Evanston, and I had a new song to debut for them, and it was like dedicated to them. I had forgotten that it was dedicated to them until just now. Although I've seen the Arets since then. I just sang for them in Florida a year or two ago, and it was so beautiful to see them and thank them again. So here's the song that I wrote to close my time in Evanston. Whoever we think we are, wherever we think we're headed, whatever we're going through right now, there's a truth behind it all, about the stuff we're really made of. And the greatest truth of all is that in his image God has made us. And if that's true, just think about what it says for me and you. God is light, and so are we. God is love, and so are we. God is life, and so are we. It's truth that cannot be denied. God is power, and so are we. God is peace, and so are we. God is beauty and joy, and so are we. That's the truth of ourselves and the truth of all mankind. Now, if I wrote that now, I was always uncomfortable with saying "in His image." Always, I've never been a convenient feminist. I've actually always sincerely been feminist about like flat out equality. And I was always very uncomfortable. I'm just saying this out loud. As I sing that, I think that's the only word that I wish I could have found a different word. And even now, I can't think of how else I would say it. In fact, I don't even like the word mankind as much as I like humankind or humanity. But otherwise, I still like that song.
Oh no, it's more fitting even today. I mean, its relevance
Yeah,
in this
yeah,
moment is very
the opening
profound.
verse.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine people all gathering and singing this song with people of every race and color and creed and sexual orientation, just everyone just singing this
everyone.
song together because it embodies everyone. That's a beautiful song, Daniel.
Yeah, thanks. I haven't thought about it in a while. Yeah.
Your most memorable experience. Tell me what your most memorable experience has been in working with New Thought churches. Do you have one that sticks out and the song that goes with it?
Sure. Well, I mean, there's many. Um, you know, there's many. It's sort of like, I mean, I used to volunteer at Cedar Sinai, for a couple of years back when I had time, which, before Jude became my lifelong volunteer project.
And by the way, that never goes away.
Yeah, I'm clear.
Mine's 22 years old. She's in the other room. Just came home for a couple of days. It never goes away.
Is she fine?
Yeah, she's done with her training. Yeah. So yeah.
So exciting. Carly, if you can hear me, congratulations. I'm proud of you.
I'll pass that on.
Yeah, that's exciting.
10:30, my guess is she's still in bed, but I'll pass that on.
Right, fair enough. What was I thinking? Right. So anyway, well, you know what? The moments that there's different kinds of moments in gigs, because I show up. I show up like I'm only quickly there, right? I'm there for a morning and an evening. I'm only there for an hour or two or three. But like one of the most special moments is when I walked in to a place I'd never been. I stood in the back. I I frequently I get fidgety. You may have noticed, or maybe not. I don't tend to sit in the front row like a good boy. I mean, I ought to. And usually there's a sign literally with like, Daniel, sit here. And I'm like, yeah, I'm probably not going to do that. I'll probably be in the back pacing. It's not to be obstinate. It's just I get fidgety, and I'm thinking, and I'm warming up, and I'm drinking water and whatever else I'm doing. Anyway, so I'm standing in the back of this room, and there's maybe 20 or 30 people in this little tiny church group I've never been to, maybe a little bigger than that, 30, 40, whatever. And they asked, anybody here for the first time? And as a joke, I raised my hand, which I immediately regretted because they were giving yellow roses to everybody who was new. And I'm like, oh, you idiot, that they paid money for this rose. You don't need a rose. This is for somebody else. So everybody, they see me and they chuckle, and the guy hands me a rose, and I'm like standing there with the rose, like, what am I gonna do with this now? So I wish I hadn't done that. And then while I'm standing there, and the service proceeds a few more minutes, and at the door appears a young mother, and a beautiful little baby girl, maybe 5, 6, 7 kind of thing, wearing like her Sunday best, like an Easter dress, like really, just they show up at the door, and they look tentative. And of course, I'm kind of, I'm sure you can relate. I'm sort of both very tentative and very confident at the same time. I mean, because I'm visiting, I'm completely unfamiliar. I don't know where the bathroom is. I don't know any faces, everything unfamiliar. But at the same time, I know who I am, and I know what I'm there to do. And I know I'd like to think I know more or less how it's going to feel when they hear what I'm going to, in other words, I'm confident, but I'm also out of my element. So I recognize out of their element when I see it. So I walk over there, and I say, hello. And I look down at the little girl, and I say, would you like a rose? And she says, okay. And she takes this little yellow rose. I'm like, well, that was a good outcome for that rose. And the mom looks at me, kind of surprised. And then the two of them go sit down. So I do I do my few songs, and the service happens and ends. And afterwards, the mother walks up to me. And this is long enough ago that I'm not even identifying the city. So there's no violation of any personal or privacy, anything. And she says, first of all, your music was beautiful. I said, thank you. And she said, but what made you do that? Why did you walk over to us and hand my little girl a rose? And her little girl standing her by hand. I said, I don't know. I had a rose in my hand, and you looked like you could use a greeting. So, and I didn't need the rose. So that's it. She said, we have belonged to this church for years, but we haven't been here in a year, because a year ago, my son died.
Oh, God.
Yeah. And she said, and I haven't been able to come back in the building. This is the first time today. She said, that was the first time I've walked into this building since our son died. And the first thing that happened is a stranger with a smile walks up and gives my little girl a rose and welcomes us back. She said, you'll never know the difference that made. I can't thank you enough. Right. Wow. And it's one of those accidental, I put in quotes if you want, but it's one of those accidental things that had nothing to do with me. And it was not, it was only, and I know you are this way too, it is only simply allowing myself to not just have an impulse to be nice, but to actually do the nice thing, whatever it is. And that thing that day was worth more than I could have ever measured, and that was, I'm still talking about, obviously 15 years, at least 15 years later, I still remember how it felt to know, because you also know this. I don't know what a song does or what a performance does. It's 5 minutes, it's 3 minutes. Sometimes for me, it's 6 minutes, right? Right. But if it, and I'm only half idealist. This is only half of me talking. The other half of me needs to make a living and would like to win a Grammy, and I would like to fill the Anaheim pond. Got it. But the half of me that shows up, I'll sing you a song. The half of me that shows up to sing this song doesn't care if I sang for one, sincerely doesn't care if I sang for 1 or 1,000,000. If it did that for them, my work is done. I'd get on a plane tomorrow to do it again. right? Right. And I know you know what I mean.
I do.
Yeah.
All right, so here you go.
There's one. Oh yeah.
I was there in the Orient Hotel,
Warrington. Yeah. Okay.
Orionton Hotel, when Reverend Bill was so proud of you when you wrote this song.
How cool.
Wonder if you remember how every week Reverend Bill thanked you and praised you.
Oh, of course I remember. Oh my God. In fact, for years after that, I said, I've discovered the secret to world peace. Everyone should get a standing ovation, hugs, and be told they're wonderful once a week by 15 people for a year and a half. I have discovered the secret. The secret to filling every hole, every void, is to hug and praise somebody once a week for a year and a half. Because that's what Bill and Elizabeth did for me, and you did too. Apparently, if you were in the room there, unforgettable. Yeah.
And then June Dixon and Judy said hello. I love them. They're from Orange County as well.
I love them too.
So Daniel, let's pick. I want to end with One Power. So we've got like a couple minutes left though. But is there another song that you want to play prior to One Power that you want to share with us?
If you're up for it, if we have time. If we don't, it's okay.
We have two. I got 20 minutes, so that's plenty of time for two songs.
Well, the song that came to mind with that story about that little girl who I'll never meet and never forget, most likely, is this one. If this is my last song, if this is my final day, if tomorrow I'll be gone, what do I want to say? If this is my last song, if it's my time to go, when my body's moved on, what will I have to show? Oh, but fortune and fame, they scatter to the wind. The things that make a name just don't matter in the end. But is the world a little more peaceful? Oceans and skies a little more blue? Is humankind a little bit wiser about the good that we can do? Does the sun shine a little bit brighter where before there was only rain? If so, then I'm glad I came. Have I given hope to the hopeless? Has a hungry soul been fed? Has a child stood a little bit taller 'cause of something that I said? Have I left a little kindness? Have I eased a little pain? If so, then I'm glad I came. For that, I'm so glad I came. If this is my last song, what do I leave behind? What do I pass on if I am out of time? So, yeah, and I also know this is true about you, and something I really admire and enjoy about you is that you don't phone in your job ever. I mean, you show up fully present in a way that very few do, in my observation. I mean, you bring your whole self, stand up there and share of yourself. And when I sing, I do the same thing, and I mean every line as I'm singing it. And that song has broken my heart more times than I could count, because especially when I with the line of a child, it's not by rote that I sing it. And some child pops into my head every time I sing, as a child stood a little bit taller because of something that I said. And then I'm thinking, of course, of this little girl from 15 years ago or more. For a long time, it was my nieces. Then it became my little boy. Sometimes I'll think of something that I said that I wish I hadn't said to my boy, or snapped or something, and then the line is sadder for me. Then, you know what I mean? Like
Right.
different times it means different things.
I get it. I
Yeah,
totally get it.
yeah.
People keep asking what that song is at Asilomar. It's called One Power, and
Mhm.
I'll have Daniel close with that one in just a few minutes, but it's called One Power. Also, let's see, Daniel, another comment. You've made a difference today. Thank you. And people are clapping.
Thank you.
Claps and just like my dogs are
Yeah, I hear
barking.
that.
As soon as I said that, they started to wake up.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, you know, you had that impact too. I don't remember at our center, a little guy had several surgeries, heart surgeries, and he and his mom were there, and I can say because they make no bones about it. His name is Chase, and
I
Chase,
remember Chase, of course.
yeah, they just loved you and adored you, and the music that you gave them as they walked through a real harrowing experience with that, with all of his surgeries and heart surgeries and things. So you were very inspirational to them. I don't think, Daniel, you'll ever be able to measure the number of people who have taken great comfort in your songs, and also the people that you break open with your songs, because a lot of people, you know, they put up their barriers, and suddenly they hear a song and tears begin to flow, and that emotion happens, and you give people permission, and you allow them to use that incredible talent that you have to literally bust open their hearts, and they're free from that bondage. At least in that moment they feel this sense of relief. I've seen it happen, you know, when you're singing at our center and you touch their hearts, and you can just see them just open right up. And so I thank you for that, because as a minister, I rely on my musicians and our guest artists to do exactly that, to create the space. And so you really help create spaces so people can minister. And you know, you open them up and you give them words of encouragement, and then we solidify it with a lesson. So you
Yeah.
know, that's, to me, that's the perfect relationship to have with an artist. You do great work, Daniel. I'm so proud of you and so happy. And Trey told me to tell you hello.
Thank
He's I think he's at the dentist now, but
you. Oh, sorry to hear
so, but he said to tell you hello, and he loved working with you on his video. And
that. Oh, a highlight of my entire career, honestly.
yeah,
I, yeah, yeah, it was so special. He is such an awesome guy, and he did such a great job on that song, and it was so meaningful. I mean, I've told his story, you know, hopefully with some boundaries, but I've told his story, you know, all over the country. I've told the story of recording that song with him, and what it meant to both of us. It was a
yeah.
huge experience for me.
I'll
Not
never, I'll never forget when he literally he came back, and he said, "Well, this is the song I'm going to redo," and you know, it was
tears
Disney.
of nothing. Yeah,
It was just it went from this soft little song to, you know, it was, you know, jumping off a cliff. It was amazing. You did a great job with it. Thank you, and thank
yeah.
you for all that you've done for our community. And so everybody, before we close, before I Daniel close with One Power, I want to say this. Tomorrow, Charles and I are doing our show at 10 o'clock. We have meditation at 10 o'clock on Saturday, services at 10 o'clock on Sunday. Again, every day, 10 o'clock, we have something going on 7 days a week. So please continue to support our center. There is a donate button underneath there. Every penny counts right now. Every penny counts, and we appreciate everyone for stepping up and giving more than they've given in the past. We have a lot of people that are not capable of giving or able to give because of their situation, but I know that there's a lot of people out there that are able to do that. So we greatly appreciate that. We put everything to great use, and one of the things that we do right now is to continue to reach out into the community. So Daniel, would you please close it up with One Power, my friend?
Absolutely. The only thing I want to invite anybody watching to do is, if you want to hear more music, I did go a little nuts with Facebook Live. I never paid any attention to Facebook before, and I never really liked it, but I've become a much bigger fan at what they've facilitated. So, Joe, you know, but if you're watching, you know, I did 3 series essentially of 12 concerts in a row, each one. So there are 36 concerts at my Facebook page, and there are some morning meditations that I did, and there's a 2-hour workshop I gave that's also there. So if you go to Daniel Namod USA, it's only USA because there's, believe it or not, another Daniel Namod, and believe it or not, he also writes songs. I'm not a huge fan of his songs. I'm sure he's a wonderful guy, but actually another Daniel Namod. So I had to call myself something, so I called it Daniel Namod USA. And the last thing I'll say is I'm doing, just like you're doing, every 10 a.m. is awesome. I'm doing, my Facebook was shut down for technical reasons for a week or 10 days, just ended yesterday, the shutdown. They got me back online. So today at 5:30, I'm going to do just a 30-minute little musical meditation. And then all next week at 8 o'clock in the morning, I'm doing 5 more live 30-minute, and I mean 30, not going long, piano, something quiet, a little quiet music and a few words. I informally call it Start Your Day with Danny, but whatever. But anyway, so if anybody feels like joining me again at 5:30 today, it's going to be a tiny bit topical in the sense that we're going to try to unwind a little bit of the anxiety of the week that's wrapping up, a week that I think probably most of us will never forget, and most of us have never seen the like, and will be talked about and written about, I would think, for generations, what we've seen this week. So if anybody feels like joining me today at 5:30 or next week, all week and at 8 in the morning, you're invited. That's it. That's the whole plug. It's not even a plug.
And his Facebook link and info is on the chat on the website.
Oh, thanks, man. Thanks. Daniel Namod USA. Yeah. And everything I've done is for free and a complete gift. I want you to, like Joe was saying, I'm a singer-songwriter, for God's sake. I understand not having income right now. So it's intended as a gift. It's literally meant to make your day better if it does. That's the whole goal. So here we go. A song that Joe still remembers. I think what year was it, Ed Silmer? It was probably 2000.
Yeah.
2001.
Maybe.
It was 2000 or 2001.
Yeah.
99. It wasn't 99. It was 2000 or 2001. I don't remember. But anyway, here we go. Yeah, Joe, thanks for having me. It's been fun.
Thanks, Daniel.
Here we go. You know what? You remember it on piano, on that big grand piano. Why don't I do it on piano instead? Here we go. There's one power, invisible, and just see it everywhere and every day. One power indescribable, and just speak of it with every word you say. Mysterious until you know the truth. As simple as the love inside of you. Call it God, call it Spirit, call it Jesus, call it Lord, call it Buddha, Baha'u'llah, angel's wings, or heaven's door. But whatever name you give it, it's all one power, can't you see? It's the power of the love in you and me. We speak so many languages, different clothing, different colors, different names. But different is only dangerous when we forget that in the heart we're all the same. We'll remember once we close our eyes to see that such distances were never meant to be. Call it God, call it Spirit, or Jesus, or Lord. Call it Buddha, Baha'u'llah, Hashem, or heaven's door. It's Muhammad, it's your mind, it's your soul, or it's your sign. It's the universe, it's music, Mother Earth, or Father Time. But whatever name you give it, it's all one power, can't you see? Whatever name you give it, it's the very air we breathe. It's the power of love in you and me. One power, yeah. One power is what we are. It's the moment of creation. It's an everlasting peace. It's the freedom of forgiveness. It's the sweetness of release. It's the joy of inspiration. It's the sunshine on your face. It's the birthright of all nations. It's the boundlessness of space. It's the beauty of a baby. The serenity of sleep. It's the anger we abandon, for it's love that's most deep. It's one power. Oh, what we are is it's the power of the love that lives forever in you and me. It's the power of the love in you and me.
Daniel, thank you so much. You are such a gift to the world. Thank you for joining us, everybody. Join Daniel tonight at 5:30 on his 5:30, right? 5:30. Join Daniel. The information's on our website. Again, thank you so very much. Daniel, bless you. Thank you. Everybody have a great day.